this couple that was just like going crazy the whole day. All the little arguing and bickering escalated, and she finally stabbed him. And when she stabbed him and saw the blood, she was like, "Oh my God, I love you so much. Oh my God." Sex was made for marriage, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It is blessed within marriage. So if you're doing it before marriage, you know, you're fornicating, it's what your creator has told us, that it's sexual immoral. It's a sin against your body, your soul, your spirit. This is what it is. To do it with different men, I'm assuming. I don't know if we're going that far. Are you saying with one person? If it's with one person, then it could be, he could be seen as your husband, the way it was supposed to be, or the way sometimes it happens, that man that you had sex with, say it was one man, he would basically be, you would be becoming his wife. He would have to pay a certain fee or what have you for you to your dad. And then it was done. If it was just that one person. Now that's not what we're doing today though. You know, now they're liberated. So they're going through several situations, which is, sexually immoral. And it's making them, they can't think. And you know what? There are certain chemicals and things that go on when you have sex. Now everybody knows that. I think we kidding ourselves to think that we can make conscious decisions, good decisions, and be sexually active with different people. That can't happen. So where I got in trouble, and I'm still getting in trouble for it, is I tell women, even if they had sex before, to preserve themselves until marriage. At first I've said, preserve yourself until the promise of marriage. I have totally moved that back. Wait until you actually going down the aisle and getting the nuptials and the night of. Don't do it. Just hold out. This is the way you'll find out if this man has the same belief system as you. He's sincere about what you're doing, and y'all can actually become one together. Otherwise, you women, you know, it's very traumatic. It could be very traumatic that a woman gets with a man and she's, you know, giving herself to him, and we may have other, you know, more kids that we don't want. There could be trauma that's with it we don't want. And it's just sex is very powerful, but it's made to be done within marriage to procreate. That's why it's good. It's not made to do the way we've been doing it.
So a couple of things, because what I was alluding to, first of all, you know, I agree, right? Where there's obviously good and healthy aspects of intercourse, right? Case in point, being able to have kids, like that's where kids come from. So that's very important. I know in the church setting or in spiritual settings, a lot of times you'll hear, just don't do it. You know, we were talking about this earlier before we went live, where it's just, you may hear, okay, just don't do it, or it's bad, but you won't hear why. People, and I think young girls in particular won't hear, why is it bad? What's the big deal about, you know, being with a man or being with multiple men beforehand? What if I'm just trying to find myself? What if I want to figure out what kind of partner I like? What if I want to find, because what I'll hear a lot of times is, well, how do I know if this guy is a good fit for me? How do I know if I like the way he does it? How do I know this? And so women will go and they'll increase their body count as a way of trying to figure out what style of intercourse do they like, you know. And this is a really popular idea. Now, I mean, I know of one friend in particular who unfortunately had a very, very traumatic divorce, and all kind of different things, but, you know, similar situation. She had a high body count, and then she kind of met a guy and they got married in a week. It was like a bit of a shotgun wedding. So the whole situation was kind of crazy, but she had all these partners, and fast forward, she's with her husband now, and she was totally unsatisfied on like all levels. She was like, he's like, the size isn't right. They just weren't connecting, all these different things. But it was like, part of the issue was, I mean, first of all, she met this guy and got married within a couple of days. So that just was crazy. But second of all, it was like, now there was all these other partners. There was all these other people that she was comparing this person with. And I've always said, it's like, first of all, I think a big challenge with having all of these bodies before marriage is you're going to be comparing your husband to every single person that you've been with beforehand. You're going to be doing it. And so it's like, how can you now try to be satisfied with this one person for the rest of your life when now you're thinking about that person, that person, that person, that person? And then especially if you're going out and having girls trips, or you're going and being with guys who are they're like professionals in their craft, or they're womanizers, so they've had a lot of time to perfect certain tricks or certain things. And it's like, you might have one of the best quote unquote experiences physically with a F boy, and then now you're getting with your husband, and it's like, it's going to take time for you and him to develop your own rhythm. But it's like, again, it's just, I think you're developing an incredibly unhealthy appetite. And then, you know, not to mention some of the physiological things. I mean, I don't know if you want to explain this to the audience, but I know that you were explaining something physically earlier before we went live about the way women actually are impacted biologically when the first time they do have a partner. And there's some stuff I kind of want to bring up too in a bit that I think kind of speaks to this.
It's several partners. Once they had several partners, their trust, the hypothalamus releases chemicals, and the trust within you, what trust actually means, the togetherness that you have, or the intimacy that you would have with your husband, it diminishes, because this is exactly what that young lady has described. Because a marriage is not about sex.
Yeah.
You know, your husband is not about how well he performs. Because what if something were to happen and he can't perform? Do you look up and be like, you know what? Oh, should I have married you? Whoever was so much better than you. You don't. There's so much more. Intimacy is so much more than the intercourse part of life. I mean, it's sad. But you know what? I can almost say that was her punishment for her wild days. You ever thought about it like that? You know, you went out there experiencing too much life. Now you are with a man that probably loves and cares and is dear to you, and he no longer satisfies you. He can't satisfy you. I would say that's almost some sort of punishment for maybe not redeeming herself, or maybe being too much, too into the world and not into the marriage, because marriage is so much deeper than that. But going back to what you said, it is a thing when women are engaged with too many men, per se. It loses the ability. Some would call it women kind of get hard, or is it hard or stiff or whatever. You can't make I've heard them say you can't make the connection that you need with your spouse.
Yeah,
you can't make that connection, because the intimacy and the ability to trust, it goes out the window because of all of the chemicals that have been released to the ones that you didn't want, But do you know something? We've seen couples that just act crazy, men and women. And we've also heard of something called post ejaculation clarity. I'm sorry. But anyway, we've heard of that before, and it is a real thing. Men experience it their way, and women experience it their way also. But what I'm trying to say is those are chemical release, and those are the same things that, if not done in a way that you are pursuing a relationship with Christ, with God, your creator, it could be dangerous. This is why we see people act out. This is why a woman that supposedly loves a man can turn around and run over him with a van or shoot him, and you'd be like, what? And then she'll break down and cry, and you'd be like, wait a minute.
You're like, yeah, it's like I've alluded to this before, and you finish, because I'm going to bring up, I think, something that.
No. Listen, we're having a conversation. Whatever you want to say. When I start talking about this, it gets crazy. I see it, though. I see it. I'm like, oh my God. She, like, one moment, she just loves them. And then, you know what? We used to work in an area, and it was so funny. It was this couple. My husband and I, we have a security firm, right? So, we got a call of this couple that was just like going crazy the whole day, drinking and just having a good old time, right? But arguing and fussing amongst themselves.
Okay.
So we had this little thing. We said after 12 o'clock is when things always just jump off and go crazy. So for sure, after midnight, all the little arguing and bickering escalated, and she finally stabbed him. And when she stabbed him and saw the blood, she was like, oh my God, I love you so much. Oh my God. I was like, you have been threatening this man all day, and now you finally stab him. He's bleeding, and she just laid out on the floor like her life was over. She stabbed him in the leg. Of course, he was going to be okay. But I mean, it was just so crazy. It was like, well, what is wrong with you? But that's what you get, because you are doing something, and it's not, how can I say it? It's not guided in the right direction. It's just not being blessed or covered. So you're just out there doing something with individuals that y'all don't have the intentions on living, let's just say, with morals. So it's all being twisted up, and it just looks like crazy. And someone said bipolar behavior is exactly right. But that's how it happens. That's how women so easily, or even men so easily, that it almost looks like they love them so much. It's like a dangerous type love. You know, they care so much about them, they can't care about themselves.
Yeah, well, that's that toxic kind of.
But it doesn't start that way, though. It's just something that it doesn't start that way. It happens, and it just like I seen a woman one day just try to run over her man with a van. He jumped out the way. She ended up hitting a innocent man. Snap right out of, oh my God, you know, it's like, what did you think was gonna happen?